Hello everybody. Under the series Diversity of Animals, today we are going to proceed with phylum Mollusca. Myself RAVNEET, and let's delve into this fascinating world of mollusca together. As you can see in the background, it is a snail, which is one of the promising members of phylum Mollusca. The major thing to be noticed here, snail is a soft-bodied animal. The term mollusca is not really being used in a day-to-day life like any other term of scientific knowledge or of scientific domain rather. For example, insecta, reptiles, amphibians. But mollusca is not a term which we use in our day-to-day life. So what does mollusca mean? Mollusc comes from the Latin word mollus, which means soft-bodied, which is a clear indicator of the fact that all the members of this particular phylum are soft-bodied animals. So now we are going to discuss about the general characteristic of the phylum Mollusca. One thing to be noted here is that these general characteristics are not applicable to all the members of the phylum, but they have some exceptions which we are also going to discuss. It is the second largest animal phylum only after phylum Arthropoda. The members belonging to this particular phylum, they can be terrestrial, they can be aquatic. And under aquatic, they can be marine water or freshwater inhabiting. They have an organ system level of organization, a well-developed digestive system, and in some classes there are well-developed nervous system as well. Bilaterally symmetrical, for example, if we look for the organism which is in the background, it is also mollusk. It can be easily divided into two equal halves, which gives a prominent proof of the fact that they are bilaterally symmetrical. They are diploblastic, which means all the organs are derived from three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. They are coelomate animals, possess a true coelom. And if we're going to talk about which kind of eucoelomate they are schizocoelomate. They are usually dioecious, which means sexes are separate, and oviparous, which means they lay their eggs and then the young ones hatch out from the eggs. If you want to talk about its general body structure, the body is pretty much undifferentiated, but nevertheless we can divide it into three major portions: mouth, a muscular foot, and rest of the visceral mass. If we're going to talk about its mouth, it has a very file-like rasping organ, very sharp rasping organ, feeding organ, that is radula. In its visceral mass, all the visceral organs are present. For example, nerve cords, which indicate neural system. The visceral mass is present. The digestive glands, which are inclusive part of digestive system, are also present. Intestine, gonads, the reproductive system, coelom are present. The outermost covering, which is a very soft covering of the visceral mass, is mantle. Mantle is something which secretes the whole shell around the body of mollusk. And mantle has a cavity in which feather-like gills are present. These gills not only have a major role in respiration, but also having a very significant role in excretion as well. So let's study it point by point. Body is covered by a calcareous shell. We can observe this calcareous shell. They have a very unsegmented body, but it can be divided into very distinct head. On this distinct head, there are sensory tentacles, and upon these tentacles, the eyes are present, which are a sense organ. And a visceral hump is also present, which can also be called as a visceral mass. A soft and spongy layer of skin forms a mantle over the visceral hump. The space between the hump and the mantle is called the mantle cavity. This is the mantle cavity which I am referring to, in which feather-like gills are present. They have respiratory and excretory functions. The anterior head region has sensory tentacles, which you have observed there. And it has a file-like rasping organ that we call as radula. Radula is a very important thing to be noticed. Questions have been asked from it in various competitive exams. We have observed these are sensory tentacles, and these are the eyes present upon the sensory tentacles. According to R.D. Barnes in Vertebrate Zoology, 7th edition, phylum mollusk has been further categorized into 7 major classes. Class 1, Monoplacophora, a single shell would be present. These generalized mollusks are called as living fossils, because from the very start to till date, not much evolution has been done to them. A prominent example, Neopilina. Neopilina has a very evolutionary significance as well, because we know one thing, that phylum mollusk is pretty much derived from phylum Annelids. So there is a connecting link between both the phylums, and Neopilina is that connecting link. It is the connecting link between the phylum Annelids and phylum mollusk. Class 2, Aplacophora. A means absent, Placophora is somewhat we are referring to shell. Absence of shell. So if shell is absent, so how it is a phylum mollusk? We have discussed about its general characteristic, that it is having a calcareous shell. Shell is absent, but calcareous spicules are present. Plus one thing, these are the calcareous spicules. We have also talked about that all the characteristic features will not be applicable to all the members of the phylum. Example is something which is visible to you. Chaetoderma is the prominent example of the class Aplacophora. Class 3, Polyplacophora, example chitin. Many, Placophora is somewhat we are again referring to shell. Shell is present, but it is further divided into many parts. In chitin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The shell is further divided into 8 parts, making it a prominent example of Polyplacophora. Class 4, Scaphopoda. Scaphi, which means boat. So if you observe that there's something like this, you know the boats, if you observe a boat from a top view, it would be something like this. So as the shells secreted by the mantle of this particular class. Characterized by a tooth or tusk muscle, and for one of the major examples is dentilium. Class 5, Gastropoda. Gastro means belly, pods means feet. Their feet are somewhat shaped like a belly. Pyla is an important example. One thing, they show torsion. What is torsion? We are going to discuss. One more thing, they have an exception. This class is asymmetrical. We have observed that in the general characteristic of phylum mollusks, that they are bilaterally symmetrical, but rest of the 6 classes are bilaterally symmetrical, but this one is asymmetrical. If you observe here, this is bilaterally symmetrical, this one is also bilaterally symmetrical, which means they can be divided into 2 equal halves. This is also bilaterally symmetrical, but Pyla cannot be divided, which is also on the background image as well. Pyla cannot be divided into 2 equal halves any way possible, which makes this class asymmetrical. One of the major things to be noticed that it is the largest class of the phylum as well. Class 6, Bivalvia. From the name we got this idea that their heart may be divided into 2 walls. That is why we are calling them bivalvia. It's true that their heart have 2 walls, but the major reason by which they have been called bivalvia is that the 2 parts of the shell are connected by a very narrow hinge ligament, and they have an economic importance in pearl formation as well. For example, Unio. Class 7, Cephalopoda. Cephal, head, pod, feet. The feet will bear head just above it. For example, octopus. They have a very prominent head, and their feet has some tubers and suckers present upon them. Having a high developed nervous system is also one of the key characters of this particular class. Plus, octopus is also a parasite. So these features help in its parasitic adaptations. One of the major topic we have discussed about in while we were discussing gastropods was torsion. There's always a very confusion between torsion and shell coiling. Both are independent of each other. What is torsion? Torsion is a process by which the mental cavity and the visceral mass are rotated 180 degree in a counterclockwise direction. Basically, the movement has been done in such a way that the mouth and anus both are anteriorly located. For example, gastropods, obviously. When it comes to shell coiling is a way by virtue of which the visceral mass can be adjusted inside the body of a mollusk. Gastropods have a very helical coiling, which is a demarcating feature of them. If the shell coils towards left side, we call it as sinistral coiling. If that's up to right side, we call it as dextral coiling. One major thing, both the activities or both the phenomena rather, torsion and shell coiling, are done to protect themselves from the predators, so their visceral organs will not be harmed. With this, thank you and have a nice day. Thank you for watching.